The central bank says achieving low and stable inflation is necessary but not sufficient to achieve faster economic growth. However, it stressed that low inflation should be complemented by structural reforms. It says these reforms will bring about more dynamism in the economy, underpin low domestic inflation and permanently reduce borrowing costs. SABC's comments echo similar policy suggestions from organizations such as the IMF, which have also suggested that the economy's potential will not be realized without further structural reforms, including ensuring reliability of power supply. The bank further says despite borrowing requirements remaining high, South Africa's fiscal ratios improved markedly, underpinned by the revenue recovery and commodity windfalls. On inflation, the Reserve Bank says domestic inflation could surprise higher if the hostilities in Ukraine continue to intensify or if gas and oil supplies are additionally constrained. It expects inflation to rise sharply, driven by fuel and food prices, averaging 6.2% in the second quarter of this year, before returning close to the target midpoint in 2023 and 2024. It warns that higher than expected wage growth, a somewhat weaker rand, and further advances in global goods prices could exert additional upward pressure on headline inflation.
We have been in somewhat of a fortunate position in South Africa. And fortunate here is put in inverted commas, because we have not, although our economy has rebounded strongly, we have not seen inflation rise as rapidly as we have seen it happen elsewhere in the world. And what this has done was that it provided the scope for the South African Reserve Bank to respond in a measured manner to the rise in inflation, so that inflation expectations do not become de-anchored. And we believe that this measured response that we commenced with last year is an appropriate way of responding to the pace at which prices are changing in the South African economy and what we see as driving those prices. And as we had alluded to, we are worried that inflation expectations are also starting to rise, although they are still within our target range. It is important to note that even as we have responded in the manner that we have responded over the past number of MPC meetings, monetary policy in South Africa remains accommodative.
Domestically, the economy grew by 4.9% in 2021. The bank says it would have surpassed pre-COVID economic output in the first quarter of 2022 had the July riots in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng not happened. It recognizes that while the recovery of the economy has progressed well, the pandemic has scarred some sectors severely. It is for this reason that economic growth outlook is now more subdued, as deep-seated constraints are expected to limit realized and potential growth. It expects the economy to grow at an average rate of 1.9%. Globally, it sees growth decelerating sharply to 3.7% this year, down from an estimated 6.4% in 2021. Diabo Seto, SABC News, Johannesburg.